When working the provisional cast on over the cable part of a circular needle, the size of the circular needle isn't that important as long as it's the same size or smaller than the working needle. So we have our working needle, working yarn with a slip knot. This slip knot is not counted as a stitch, that's just an anchor here, we're going to pull that out later. In this particular cast on, we have the working yarn at the bottom and the cable part of the circular needle at the top. Cable at the top, working yarn at the bottom. This cast on is worked in 2 stages and each stage creates a stitch. Stage 1. Insert the needle down in between the cable and the yarn, then pull up a loop of the yarn. That's stage 1. We have 1 stitch now on the knitting needle. Stage 2, you continue all the way back underneath both the cable and the yarn, and then down in between both of them, and that creates the 2nd stitch. So remember, the slip stitch isn't counted. What we have now, 2 stitches on the needles. Down, stage 1 finished, then stage 2 all the way around and back in between the 2 of them. Alright, so we should have 8 on the needle now. 2, 4, 6, 8, remembering that the slip stitch doesn't count. Alright, let's turn the work and start knitting back. Can you see here how this loop here is just kind of dangling? This yarn is dangling here. In order to create a stitch, we need to make sure that this yarn comes underneath the cable of the circular needle. So underneath that, and then we get our first stitch. Make sure that's nice and tight. 2, 3, 4, what did I just do? 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now here we have the slip knot that we started with. We don't work that, we just pull that out. Alright, going back on the other side, you need to make sure that this yarn end, this tail, is pulled tightly. And then you can continue back on the purl side as per normal knitting. Alright, so when you've done your knitting for a while, you've maybe cast off or done something, your work will look like this. So here is my cast on edge along the cable of the circular needle, and then here is my cast off edge. So the great thing about this technique is that when I want to continue knitting in this direction now, all I have to do is pull these stitches onto this needle. And like I said, the size of this needle doesn't matter at all. This is the needle that creates the size of the stitches. It may just be that using a slightly smaller size makes it easier to move the stitches on the needle. All right, let's get knitting. Now you'll find that when you're knitting this, that every second stitch is actually twisted. Can you see here that in this particular stitch, the back leg is the leg that's facing further to the right. So this is a twisted stitch. We need to work this stitch into the back of the loop in order to straighten that out. And then we see this stitch here is just normal, so we just knit that in the regular way. This one is twisted, let's work that into the back. This one's normal, this one's twisted, twisted, normal, that one's twisted, normal, twisted, and a normal one. And so the beauty of this cast on is that it's invisible. When you continue on working this way, no one will ever know that, that you cast on there. And that's the provisional cast on using the cable of a circular needle.